The Ford is in the Red Sea. The Lincoln is in the Arabian Sea. Neither of them is in the Strait of Hormuz. That is not an accident. That is a decision. And the reason for that decision is the single most operationally significant fact about the Iran war that no briefing, no press conference, and no official statement has explained directly. The Strait of Hormuz is now effectively closed, not partially disrupted, not experiencing elevated risk, effectively closed. On March 4th, only 5 vessel crossings were recorded through the strait, 5 against a 7-day pre-war average of 27 crossings. On a normal day, approximately 20 million barrels of oil transit that 21-mile-wide waterway. As of March 4th, that flow had collapsed to near zero. And the Ford, the carrier that CENTCOM says is squeezing Iran from the sea, is in the Red Sea, not the Strait. The carrier red line is not rhetorical. It is a geographic fact on the water right now. Here is what you need to understand. The United States now has its 2 most powerful aircraft carriers positioned on both sides of the Arabian Peninsula simultaneously. The USS Gerald R. Ford completed Suez Canal transit on March 5th and is confirmed in the Red Sea. The USS Abraham Lincoln is confirmed in the Arabian Sea as of March 2nd, one west of Iran, one east of Iran, and both outside the strait that connects them. This is the squeeze geometry, 2 carriers, 2 threat axes, and a 21-mile choke point between them that neither ship will enter. The Windward Maritime Intelligence Daily confirmed on March 5th that vessel traffic through the strait collapsed by 70% after the joint U.S.-Israeli strike on February 28th. The Council on Foreign Relations published analysis confirming the same data. Lloyd's List confirmed that approximately 170 container ships with a combined capacity of around 450,000 TEU are currently inside the strait and unable to exit safely. That is roughly 1.4% of the global container fleet, trapped. Protection and indemnity insurance, the primary hull and cargo coverage that makes commercial shipping commercially viable, was withdrawn for Strait of Hormuz transits effective March 5th. Without insurance coverage, no commercial operator can send a ship through the strait regardless of the military situation. Because the financial liability of losing a fully laden VLCC tanker with no insurance coverage is existential for any shipping company on Earth. 4 major container shipping companies have issued formal suspensions of strait transits. Maersk, Hapag-Lloyd, CMA CGM, MSC, all confirmed, all suspended. Economic data section. Now look at the economic data. The U.S. Energy Information Administration confirms that approximately 20 million barrels of oil per day transited the Strait of Hormuz in 2024, representing approximately 20% of global petroleum liquids consumption. Around 1/5 of the global liquefied natural gas trade also transited the strait in 2024, primarily from Qatar. On March 2nd, Brent crude spiked by as much as 13%. Natural gas prices soared by 50%, driven in large part by Qatar Energy shuttering production after its facilities were targeted by Iranian strikes. Saudi Arabia and the UAE have bypassed pipeline infrastructure. The Saudi East-West pipeline and the UAE's Habshan-Fujairah pipeline. But EIA data confirms their combined capacity is only approximately 2.6 million barrels per day, against the strait's normal 20 million barrel daily flow. The gap between those 2 numbers is the volume of global oil that has no alternative route if the Strait of Hormuz closure persists. 20 million minus 2.6 million equals 17.4 million barrels per day with no way out. This is where things stop making sense. If the strait is this critical, if 20 million barrels per day depend on it, if the global economy runs through it, why are both American carriers positioned outside it instead of inside it? Why is the Ford in the Red Sea and the Lincoln in the Arabian Sea when the crisis is in the strait between them? The answer is geometry, not political geometry, physical geometry. The geometry of what happens when you try to move a $13 billion ship through a 21 nautical mile choke point that is inside the engagement range of every coastal anti-ship system Iran operates. The Strait of Hormuz, at its narrowest point, is 21 nautical miles wide. Confirmed by the Council on Foreign Relations, it runs between Oman to the south and Iran to the north. Iran's coastline runs along the strait's entire northern side, meaning that Iran's coastal defense systems, its coastal radar networks, its fast attack boat bases, and its mine-laying assets are positioned along the full length of the waterway that a carrier would have to transit. The confirmed engagement range of Iran's Khalij-Fars anti-ship ballistic missile is approximately 300 kilometers. The strait, at its widest, is approximately 95 kilometers across. A carrier transiting the strait is not near Iran's coastal missile envelope, it is inside it, at every point of the transit, with no room to maneuver outside the engagement range of every coastal anti-ship system. A carrier in the open Arabian Sea can operate at standoff distance, positioning itself where the probability of intercepting every incoming threat remains high. A carrier inside the Strait of Hormuz has no standoff distance. It is 21 miles from Iran's coast at its closest point, inside every threat envelope simultaneously, with no room to maneuver, no depth to exploit, and confined to a navigation channel that Iran's mine-laying submarines and fast attack boats have been threatening since March 2nd. The carrier red line is the line at which standoff geometry collapses into proximity geometry, and the Strait of Hormuz is on the wrong side of that line. This is not speculation. This is the operational reality that explains why the USS Gerald R. Ford, the world's most advanced aircraft carrier, transited the Suez Canal on March 5th, heading into the Red Sea instead of continuing east into the Arabian Sea and then north into the Strait. Because CENTCOM understands what the geography dictates. You cannot squeeze Iran from inside its weapons engagement zone. You squeeze from outside it, from two directions, simultaneously. This is not a temporary disruption that resolves itself when tensions cool. This is a structural breakdown of the global energy supply chain happening in real time, while the two most powerful warships on Earth position themselves around the problem instead of through it. Because the problem is not solvable by carrier presence. The problem is geometry. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps officially confirmed to media on March 2nd that the strait was closed, subsequently threatening any ship that attempted transit, and the data proves they are enforcing it. 5 crossings on March 4th. 5 out of a normal 27. The split carrier geometry that the Pentagon has confirmed works because Iranian planners now have to account for carrier-based air threat vectors from both the west through the Red Sea corridor and from the east through the Arabian Sea. Concentrating both carriers inside the strait itself would eliminate that two-axis threat and compress American carrier power into a single geography, where Iran's coastal missiles, mines, fast attack boats, and Kilo-class submarines are all optimized to operate. CENTCOM's March 5th statement confirmed this directly. Another carrier strike group in the Middle East. U.S. forces are squeezing Iran from the sea. But here's the development that changes everything. USNI News confirmed on March 6th that the USS George H.W. Bush completed its pre-deployment composite training unit exercise on March 5th. Reports are circulating that the Bush will also deploy to the region. If confirmed, that would be the first time the United States has deployed 3 nuclear aircraft carriers simultaneously to the Middle East since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. 3 carriers would give the United States approximately 220 carrier-based combat aircraft operating from 3 different geographic positions around Iran's maritime perimeter, supported by more than 15 Aegis destroyers. 3 carriers change the magazine drain calculation. Iran's anti-carrier doctrine depends on the ratio of incoming Iranian missiles to available American interceptors. A 3-carrier force with 15 Aegis destroyers changes that ratio significantly in America's favor. But it does not change the geometry. Even with 3 carriers, the Strait of Hormuz remains 21 nautical miles wide. Iran's coastal missiles remain positioned along the entire northern shore. The fast attack boats still operate at 50 to 70 knots. The mines are still being laid, and the insurance is still withdrawn. Watch 3 indicators in the next 72 hours. First, the Windward Maritime Intelligence Daily's vessel crossing count. If it stays at or near 0, the economic pressure on every oil importing nation in Asia will become intense enough to force diplomatic activity at the United Nations Security Council. Second, whether the USS George H.W. Bush's deployment orders are confirmed publicly. 3 carriers in theater simultaneously is a force concentration that signals sustained operations, not a temporary surge. Third, whether the Ford's Red Sea position changes in either direction. If the Houthis resume attacks, the Red Sea becomes a contested environment for the Ford in exactly the same way the Arabian Sea is contested for the Lincoln. The Ford is in the Red Sea, the Lincoln is in the Arabian Sea, the Strait of Hormuz is between them, 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, with 5 vessel crossings recorded on March 4th against a pre-war daily average of 27, with insurance withdrawn, with 170 container ships trapped inside, with IRGC fast attack boats patrolling its narrowest sections, and with Iran's Kilo-class submarines operating in its depths. The carrier red line is not a line someone drew on a map in a briefing room. It is the line the water drew, confirmed by the data of 5 crossings in 24 hours, and by the position of 2 supercarriers that are executing their missions from every approach to the strait except through it. This is not a pause, this is geometry, and geometry does not negotiate.